Hello, my name is Eliza, and this is my makeup video for the third in-class meeting that I had missed. So today we're going to be talking about Buddhist attitudes towards politics. This is obviously very important because politics is all around us and, it cannot be avoided. To start off, the belief that Buddhism is apolitical is a widespread and common misconception. From the beginning of time, even during the time of the Buddha, the Sangha has heavily depended on secular authorities, especially for donations, to keep the monasteries running and the clergy running. Also, another example of like a really early example of this is during the early days of Buddhism's growth, Buddhists converted kings of Tibet to Buddhism. And this is in the case of the 5th Dalai Lama, where Buddhists took over the entire government. And we also saw this with Emperor Ashoka, who adopted the Dharma, and he completely changed his ways and went from engaging in violence to spreading the Dharma amongst his people. So from the beginning of time, Buddhists have been involved in politics. Also, it's important to understand that especially in countries today, such as Thailand, Vietnam, and Burma, they're sponsored by the state, and they also have Buddhist state control because Buddhism is the religion or philosophy of these countries. And because they're sponsored by the state, this can come in varying degrees. For example, in Laos, the Buddhist monastics lack support regarding, many aspects like such as finances and educational facilities. And oftentimes when monasteries are seen or are sponsored by the state, and when they are looking for support from the state, they're often can be seen as liabilities by secular authorities, and this is because Buddhist land is exempt from taxation, and the clergy of these Buddhist monasteries are also immune. They gain immunity from military service. So in that way, they're seen as liabilities. Dharma teachings are nonpartisan, meaning no sides are to be taken, and this goes hand in hand with engaged Buddhism, which is social activism. When politics are involved in engaged Buddhism's agenda and activism, it's important to not take sides or alienate anyone. It's all about compassion and helping to aid or provide relief for suffering that could be occurring. So an example of this is by the Buddhist elder Athariyatane of Sri Lanka. And during the time of war, he was able to organize a movement where citizens gathered and worked together to build wells and schools and to meditate together during the time of war. And that's how they were active during this time. They didn't take sides, but they were showing their activism through Buddhist practices. And during this gathering, he expressed a plan to the audience, to everyone at the gathering, his plan to heal the country by implementing Buddhist principles. So a lot of times, I believe, especially Westerners will adopt Buddhism and avoid talking about politics or being involved in politics or activism in general. And this is called spiritual bypassing. And it's when basically Buddhism is implemented in a way by a person to escape the real world and avoid being involved in any politics. Because, they could adopt this belief by saying it's all about peace, it's all about nonviolence, that they have nothing to do with this, that they don't condone it, so they're not going to do anything about it. But this can cause more harm than good, because Buddhists are still citizens, and traditionally the Buddha wanted every person of the Sangha, as well as lay people even, to work together to strengthen compassion throughout their surroundings and settings. And you can't do that if you just sit back and don't participate in any sort of engaged Buddhism or activism, especially within politics. So yeah, in conclusion, it's important to understand the difference between Buddhism being involved in politics, and so the difference between political and partisan. I think an engaged Buddhist can be political but not partisan. They don't have to take sides in order to engage in politics or social activism.